I'm Jill Savage. Let's get to introduce our panel right now. Of course, Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
Great to be in Dallas still.
Yes, and our Blaze News politics reporter, Rebeka Zeljko, out in D.C. Rebeka, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you guys.
So there's so much news going on right now. Let's go a roundabout way. It'll all come back to the Epstein files as it always does right now. But let's go ahead and dive into what's happening here, because Trump's DOJ just fired Maurene Comey as the assistant U.S. attorney at the SDNY. Now, Comey, she had been involved in the prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sean P. Diddy Combs. So, Rebeka, why are we seeing this happen right now, right? This is something that the conservatives have been pointing out for a while. So why is this happening today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't aware that there was still a Comey that was employed under this administration. I was pretty surprised to hear about the firing, not because it was not deserved, but because I didn't know that she still had a job. In any case, as you pointed out, she has been involved with a lot of these high-profile cases, of course, the Jeffrey Epstein case, and then his sidekick, if you will, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was involved in that case as well. But also most recently, the Diddy case, where he was surprisingly, I think to a lot of people's surprise, acquitted on some pretty major charges. And the common thread, at least from the perspective of onlookers, people were speculating that a lot of these cases allegedly potentially might have something to do with blackmail. So that's always interesting. But of course, I think the reason that we are hearing about this firing now is because of the Jeffrey Epstein saga that the administration has been trying to kind of dampen over these last couple of days. Especially, it's come to a head in the news cycle, as I'm sure everybody has seen, and it's sort of an unwelcomed issue. The DOJ, they dropped this memo on Sunday from Attorney General Pam Bondi saying that there are no Epstein files, there's nothing to see here, when of course she months ago said that they were on her desk. And so a lot of people are kind of getting whiplash. A lot of people are confused. And then we saw those Epstein binders where they pretty much made a fool of a lot of these conservative media allies, and they embarrassed them. And a lot of people, I think, felt burned by that. And so it's really interesting to see how the Attorney General has selectively leaked different pieces of Epstein information to different outlets. That is fascinating. But at this point, a lot of this drama has come to a head, and they kind of just needed to have some sort of, she's kind of like a sacrificial lamb, I think. This was like a symbolic firing. I think it helps that she's a Comey, and I don't think anybody really likes the Comeys anymore, at least not in the MAGA base. And in these last couple of days, we saw the president saying that the Jeffrey Epstein files, which don't exist and are, that they're not even a problem. These files are simultaneously this Democrat hoax. One of the people which he blamed was, of course, James Comey. And so it's been very fascinating to watch. A lot of people will be keeping tabs, no matter how hard the administration tries to kind of put out these fires. It's very clear that the story is not going to be dying down anytime soon.
Yeah, Matt, it does look like they're going after the Comeys right now, because we see that Maurene had worked at this prosecutor's office for nearly a decade. Yeah. So it isn't really a surprise that this is all happening this week.
Okay, but the question here is, what exactly was she fired for? Not that, of course, that I have a problem on principle with firing a Comey. As Rebeka said, I mean, it should have been done a long time ago, probably. But I mean, this was leaked, just to be clear, as part of what we would call a round of Epstein-related developments. That's what you're suggesting. But we don't actually know what she was fired for. But the implication is the way it came to the media that it had something to do with Epstein. Is that right?
Yeah, I get the sense that pretty much any Epstein-related moves the administration is taking these days is going to have to do with optics. Like I said, they're in damage control this week. Their base is pretty upset about how the administration, specifically Attorney General Pam Bondi, has handled this saga, as I mentioned, with the binders, and then first kind of overpromising and then under-delivering. That's basically been the theme of her time as Attorney General, a very short time as Attorney General. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of it is going to be damage control. A lot of it is going to be optics. The president is doing everything he can to kind of turn the page. It's very clear. He's had multiple interactions with reporters saying, why are we still talking about this? This isn't the story. There's all these great things going on in the country. And that's partially true. I mean, I think he's very upset that this Epstein drama is eclipsing a lot of the big accomplishments that the administration has been focusing on these last couple of weeks. Of course, the big, beautiful bill is one that comes to mind. And the Epstein drama is just, it came out of nowhere too. Like nobody was really expecting this memo or asking for any updates or any developments. And so dropping it right after the administration pulled off a massive win with this big, beautiful bill is super interesting. I'm not really entirely understanding the political calculus of not just the memo, but the way that they've handled this entire thing. It's been very fascinating to watch. It's very clear, again, the administration is doing everything they can to turn the page, but it's not really working.
So, Rebeka, earlier this week, we were at New Media Day over on the Hill. And of course, the biggest question this week is always going to be Epstein or the transparency or lack thereof. So let's go ahead and take a look at what some of the members had to say.
But you got to ask yourself, why the Democrats not done anything in the last 4 years when they could have? And if Trump was on those lists, you know that thing would have been released first day. We've got to address this thing. America's ticked off about it.
What the Democrats did is they tried to procedurally put a non-related motion related to that on a crypto bill. So obviously the Democrats have made political an issue that wasn't political.
The American people they feel highly disappointed. They feel like they've been betrayed. And this issue isn't going to go away. And I think that sunlight is a great sanitizer. Until the truth comes out, people are going to speculate and think the worst.
Absolutely. Always we go for transparency. And the Democrats are the biggest hypocrites ever.
We've said there's a list. It's on Pam Bondi's desk, and all of a sudden it doesn't exist. I think she's been ill-advised. And I stand with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino.
It's a pretty wide-ranging topic still on Capitol Hill, but the members that you talk to, they want to see more transparency.
It's been Republicans on the Hill have really been put in a difficult position because on one hand, you obviously have not just the MAGA base, but I mean, Americans in general. I think this is kind of one of those rare bipartisan issues that a lot of people care about and are suspicious about and want to see more transparency around, for maybe different reasons, but I think it's the consensus is that transparency is always going to be preferred. But then you have the president saying, we shouldn't even be talking about this. This isn't even a story. We just need to kind of sweep this under the rug. And so Republicans are kind of trying to toe this line carefully. And House Democrats, if we're talking about optics, it's not just the administration that's been focused on trying to message on this properly. House Democrats have definitely taken advantage of this situation to kind of play politics. As Congressman Stubbe mentioned, they tried to force this procedural vote and they tried to frame it as voting for transparency on the Epstein files when it was a lot more complicated than that. But they're trying to put Republicans in this position to make them sort of choose between a transparency or the administration. Those aren't necessarily the choices they actually have to face. This is just the messaging tactics that the Democrats are trying to put forth. That being said, all the Republicans I spoke to said that they're in favor of transparency, and whether or not they explicitly say it or, on camera or off camera, Tim Burchett, he pointed out that Pam Bondi, she's kind of sort of fallen out of favor with some of the Republicans on the Hill and Republican voters, but there's still support behind some of the leadership at the FBI there, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they maneuver this in these next coming weeks. Assuming that the news cycle lives on for the next couple of weeks, but I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, we should say, in terms of transparency, you have this New York Times report coming out today saying there's 4,700 transactions dating to 2003, including payments to women from Eastern European countries. You all of a sudden see the media, finding a renewed interest in a topic that they covered up for a long time. So this isn't going to go away, I don't think, Jill, and neither is the Bondi question.
No, and the other thing that people were talking about there on the Hill with Rebeka are all the DOJ cuts that have been made. And you know what? What I love is that they've been scaring all of the right people, right? We see NPR CEO Kathleen Marge. She wanted to go through and just keep taking all of the American payers' tax dollars. Let's go ahead and take a look what she thinks she is entitled to.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our...
We know that NPR is biased. And now it's just so funny to me that people are just trying to go out there and say, oh, no, it's fine. We can just go ahead and continue the NPR funding, the PBS funding. No, Rebeka, we need to stop doing some of this.
Yeah, the Catherine Marr, I mean, this is like such an unserious take from a pretty unserious person, no offense to her. But the idea that NPR is like this unbiased beacon of truth that all Americans need and rely on is just absurd. I mean, some of my favorite headlines, I was skimming through some of them, and I think some of the best ones are kind of from like the 2020 post George Floyd era, where all of the media and all of the politicians just became like race obsessed and they attributed every problem in the world to racism. There was one about how like highways are racist or how like being fat is a product of racism or something like that. Again, just like totally unserious, laughable headlines. And this is the sort of thing that NPR is doing. And Catherine Moore herself, I mean, her track record is not exactly stellar. She's pretty much spent her career calling the president a racist. She said that, he's like an abhorrent racist or something like that. She called him like a sociopath. And yeah, she also had this picture of her masked up with her Biden hat. Like these are pretty recent. Yeah, that photo. These are like recent. These are recent pictures from her Twitter. These aren't just like, when she was in high school, she had a moment of weakness. So I just find the whole thing is just so rich. And to the point about the taxpayer funding, not only should taxpayers not be funding this sort of biased media coverage, but they will be fine without it. I mean, it's only like, 2% of their budget or something like that. There's plenty of Democrat donors that are willing to fund this sort of, absurdity in the media. And so they're going to be totally fine. They're going to be just fine. They're going to be able to continue printing whatever left-wing propaganda they would like to. And we will continue to enjoy their ridiculous headlines just without paying for it.
Rebeka, there's a big news out of your world today. I don't know if you're going to be able to post this picture on Twitter or not. I don't know if you're even allowed to do that, but you got a hard pass to the White House today. Just more signs that Blaze Media is actually going to be here to stay.
It's true. Yeah, I went down to the White House this morning and I got my hard pass. So I'm officially allowed to go to the Brady briefing room. So you will be hopefully seeing me spend a lot more time down there, splitting my time between Capitol Hill and the White House and just trying to put out as many fires as we can.
Well, you're going to be busy because in August, I know they all go away on Capitol Hill, but we had to go through and make sure, you know what? Go over to the White House, get some good stuff for us because you come out and always have great things to say. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.